everyone. All right, so I gotta be honest, I know some of you guys have, I want you guys to feel like this is also relevant to what you guys are doing in your classroom. How many of you guys have ever used student accounts, like Microsoft accounts, like New Story Live?
Oh yeah, I have my kids sign into the Chromebooks and we do Prodigy.
So you guys do that. Awesome. What about you? Do you do anything with New Story Live or know what New Story Live is?
I don't know what New Story Live is.
Good! I got one person that doesn't know. I'm very happy about that. New Story Live, every teacher, every BC, every employee in the building, all staff should have a New Story Live account, okay? What New Story Live, you have like that first name dot last name at newstoryschools.com Microsoft account, right? So you can check your email. Well, you should have a, like mine would be jason.dutil at newstorylive.com. Everybody should have a separate Microsoft account. And this Microsoft account is kind of what they use as a learning for student learning, for digital learning. Okay, you guys with me?
Yes.
I know it may not be the best explanation, but it's meant for students. Every student has it. I love the fact that this is a thing, and I will be truly, truly upset if they would ever go like, hey, we're not going to provide students with these accounts because I view them as an instructional necessity. We live in a digital age. How much emphasis do you guys put into physical writing in your classroom?
A lot. My kids can't do it.
I know with the younger students, you have a lot of kids that don't love writing. How many of those kids love writing?
None.
How many of those kids do you guys, how much emphasis do you put on digital stuff, like typing?
My kids.
I haven't started typing. I just realized a lot of my kids don't even know how to use the computer.
Mm-hmm. We assume that students, this is kind of getting a little philosophical here, but we assume students just know what they're doing because they grew up basically with a tablet in their hand or something like that. But just because they grow up with technology doesn't mean that they know how to use it. I truly believe that. And I think it's evident in our students. A lot of our students don't know how to type. They don't have the digital skills required to go out in the world. What is the probability that you think they're going to be filling out an application versus typing out an application? What is the probability that your students will e-sign a consent form at the doctor?
Very likely.
Yeah.
Very likely, right? So your students will need to know and kind of play around with at least the digital world in some capacity. Digital literacy is a very important thing to teach. So even if we're in person, I do feel that we need to be utilizing the New Story Live accounts. Microsoft Teams is that interface that we use for learning. Are you guys familiar with Microsoft Teams?
Yes.
I'm assuming that many of you are just because we access Teams, right?
Yes.
So you guys know that when you log into Teams, you'll see this. I'm actually logged into my New Story Live account. These are the teams that are set up when I log in. You guys see this?
Yeah.
We got 22, 23, Lancaster Room 21, Counseling Corner, and then there's some old teams, which I have to discuss with John, because now it's becoming very crowded. The longer you get here, the more teams you see. Especially if you have a new team every year, which seems to be the case. And when you guys come back in August, one of the things that should happen is that an administrator should have created a classroom team for you.
I don't even remember having one of those last year.
Yeah, they should have created one. This is something that I'm usually on top of, and I will be on top of it this coming school year, so don't worry. Last year for me, it was 22, 23, Lancaster Room 21 was my teams. So that was the team that was set up. If you hit the 3 dots on the side, you'll see Manage Team, Add Channel, Add Member. If you click on Manage Team, that's where you're going to go and add students. So if I go, it'll actually go into my team that was created. This should be created for you. Then you can kind of add the members here. These are owners, And then down at the very bottom, you'll see members and guests. This is where your student's name should be. So you want to make sure that you're adding your student name. Remember, every student has a New Story Live account. This is very, very important. So you want to make sure you add your students to the team that was created for you. In theory, teachers should be able to create their own teams. This is something I'm need to look into the coming school year. If I remember correctly, I was unable to make the team. I had to actually have an administrator do it, unfortunately. But we'll make sure that we have a team. The reason that this is so important is you can do student collaborations. You can create assignments for students. You can do meetings. You can do so many instructional tools using Teams. Like if you look over here on the left side, for example, there is a home page that you have for your classroom. So when it loads, you'll kind of see this is like a little home page that I created for my classroom. So when they log in, with reminders to be safe, be respectful, be accountable, right there when they log in. There's a class notebook for writing last year. I had students actually, instead of doing journals, they kept an online journal. So actually, I clicked the class notebook. This is actually the a student actually opened up. So instead of doing 15-minute station of writing with a journal, they did it on this. They used their devices to do type up. I did a lot of creative writing, almost like a diary entry. They can kind of write whatever they wanted. However they're feeling, it's a good time to do social skills, to do some social emotional learning, that kind of encourage that writing. Students, I find many of my students just hate writing, so this is the way to encourage them to freely write. My students ended up loving writing stories. Some of my students wrote short stories. One student in particular that I'm thinking of, his stories, I couldn't wait to actually read it at the end of the week because I was really vested in what was going on, and it gave me an opportunity to kind of work with him in how to do character development. Thinking about conflict, because conflict drives stories, right? So thinking about that and what kind of conflicts his hero will be venturing into. So it was almost like a way that I wasn't teaching it, but I was kind of allowing him that creative outlet. So students, so you might have some students that actually are more drawn to that kind of thing rather than writing. This student doesn't like handwriting. However, this student will type up like pages of stuff. So it's just kind of just getting a feel for what your students prefer. If you click on assignments here, this is where things get a little bit more directed towards particular students or as a class. If you click on create assignment, you can type in an assignment to your whole class. Here you can do math probes. We talk about progress monitoring. Writing goals. I often incorporate them, allow them to type writing goals anyway. So I will do progress monitoring through Teams. I would do that kind of thing. Even for math, there is a website called Common Core Sheets. Is anybody familiar with that? You can create a free account, log in, and you can create a digital, almost like a digital worksheet with 5 problems on it with a certain skill. And then you can let them do it online. They can take that. All you have to do when you log in, you find it, you can print that out, and boom, there's their progress monitoring. So you can do things on here beyond just kind of like doing station work. Doing station work is great, but you can do progress monitoring. You can do assessments. You can do all sorts of things with this. Okay, PDFs. Instead of printing out packets, I will scan documents like of a text. So let's say there's a chapter in a text. I'll scan it. I will upload that PDF as an assignment on Teams and or put it on Teams. Then the students can click on it and they can follow along with the text so I don't have to print. It's miraculously, sometimes we run out of paper, right? So this is a way that we can kind of get around certain things like that. So we can kind of scan things in and access. So you can do all sorts of things in here. You can keep track of grades within Teams. as well, so you can transfer grades. I love Microsoft Forms because it auto grades. Like literally, now I will have to go back because, I'm human, I make mistakes, so it's not like I still have to check their work, right? I can't completely do that, go in there, but I could save time on grading. There's so many things here. There's actually a reflection and insights thing, which was new last year, I believe, that you can have students even reflect on their day. When they log in, it'll, like a survey will come up and be like, how are you feeling today? And, they can click smiley faces to reflect how they're feeling.
That's very helpful for my nonverbal kids and my kids struggling with reading. They can just click the icon.
This is something I think that elementary classrooms, that's what I hear. If anything, the biggest technological problem that we will have will honestly be having enough devices so all students have them. Some classrooms don't have enough devices. Some of the elementary classrooms especially. Every student should have an iPad. They should. They don't, but they should. That's something that I'm hoping to advocate for as well. I don't think administration might not be too happy with me in August, but I'll probably come in all excited and ready to advocate for many things technology related. The main point here that I want to go over with this is very informal. As you can see, I'm kind of rambling here. It's very informal what I'm doing here, but I just want to kind of familiarize you with Teams and kind of encourage you guys to think of ways that you can use Teams to your advantage, even with young students. My 9-year-old, with her school tablet, she's able to do things that I had no idea she was able to do with my own daughter. So kids, believe it or not, don't put it past them to pick up on things. Don't be afraid to use technology with them if you have that available in your classrooms, okay? One of the other things on Teams is you can set up meetings with students too. Say you have a student who goes out sick for 2 weeks. You can set up meetings. Actually, I think you had to do this, right? With one student?
Yeah.
Like before, where I thought I remembered you having to, maybe I'm getting you mixed up with somebody else. But where you had to, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but somebody had to call. Last year, someone had to call a student at, I don't know if it was the end of the day or sometime. Somebody had to do that. I
I
can't
didn't
remember.
want to call student, I had to call parents.
You had to call parents? Okay. But I was gonna say, sometimes you can use News Story Live accounts to set up those meetings as well. So you can post assignments for students to do. So if a student is out for a long period of time, you can, and parents ask you for work or something like that. Now, whether or not they'll do that work is something debatable. But however, you can post that work. You don't have to print packets. I don't know about you guys, but in my experience, there's been times where even for like snow days, there's a sudden cancellation, and suddenly we have to rush and print out these huge packets for students. I don't know if you guys have ever had to do that, but I had to. This saves a lot of time because you can actually put a lot of assignments. Those students with internet access and the ability to log on to News Story Live then can do can do so at home. Okay. All right. Last thing. I'm sorry. I'm gonna kind of end it with here. The one thing that I am going to stress when you create an assignment, one of the things that you can do is you can create documents. I actually have one up here. You can include a document that is kind of shared with students. You can do this from Teams. You don't have to do this from Teams. Keep in mind these News Story Live accounts are Microsoft accounts. I don't know if you know this, but your students have access to Outlook. They have access to Word. They have access to PowerPoint. For elementary students, if you're doing something with a country, for instance, you can have a student pick, or like a comment, say it's comment. You have 7 students or whatever in your classroom. You want to do one of them can pick a slide and you can work on a specific continent. And you can actually build a PowerPoint presentation together as a class. So it's something that you guys can do. Same thing with Word documents. I went ahead and taught my kids at the end of the year how to make comments in Microsoft Word. The reason for this is because this coming school year, I want my students, I want to put more stress on peer editing.
Okay.
So when they type up documents, they can share it with a classmate and they can look at each other's work digitally. without exchanging papers or anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then they can collaborate on presentations. They can collaborate. So collaboration is something I'm going to be stressing. Do you guys have any questions about Microsoft Teams,
Not right now.
News Story Live accounts? Again, this is something that's really quick. I'll be able to get into at the very beginning of the school year and assist people as needed to in August. Okay? All right. I think I hit on everything I was going to hit on. In your email, when you log into your News Story Live account, you'll also get emails too. So here's like Paul mentioned in the comment. I'll get anytime anything's shared, like I'll get email notifications of things happening too. Okay? So if a student creates a document, as long as they share it with my email address, I'll be able to have direct access to it. There have been times that I was sitting at my desk and literally I would log in. Like if a student was saying they were journaling, I would literally log into their document and I would say like, hey, you're not doing your work. I would literally catch them at my desk just simply by going, they don't look like you know what? They don't look like they're doing anything. So I log in and I will see their cursor is not moving. And I would literally, one student in particular, I literally just typed in, I see you. And I sent him a message like, I see you, and they kind of like shook a little bit, and it was like, because they weren't expecting me to message them.
Right.
So there is ways that you can even be accountable.
We used to have Hapara that did that.
What's that?
We used to use Hapara and it did that.
Oh, cool. All right, there is, actually there was one more thing, but I am going to save it. There is the Microsoft Whiteboard, which some of you are familiar with like Nearpod or like different resources like that. You can have students do like more interactive, like on Microsoft Whiteboard, there's an option. I would show you normally, but because of time, I'm just going to tell you real quick, and then we're going to end. This will be the last thing, I'm sorry. Is that you can actually have students participate by like, instead of putting post-it notes and getting them to like walk up on the board, you can do an activity like that on Microsoft Whiteboard, where they can type in answers and the answers will pop up on the screen. I found that very useful too. Or even working with a math problem. I could put a math problem on Microsoft Whiteboard and it will show up on their devices in front of them, so they don't have to be in front of the smartboard. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's lots and lots of things to go over. I had such a short amount of time to do it. I'm actually excited to go over a lot of different things. I've been playing around with like AI. I don't know how you guys feel about artificial intelligence.
I've been using ChatGPT.
But there are a lot of resources out there for teachers right now, let me tell you. There's a whole thing where I was just playing around with this resource that you can copy a whole section of a text into it, and within seconds it'll give you it'll spit out a multiple choice quiz on that based off of the text that you put in. It's crazy. There's so much out there for teachers. All right. Anything else before I end here? I'm so sorry for taking up
No, you're fine.
a lot of your time. Thank you so much. All right, if no questions, I look forward to going over this in August. Thanks.
You have